The story begins when a man named Kuga really wants great power. If he had that power, he would definitely be happy. However, after he got the power to save the city, his life suddenly became more suffering. The Empire and many people hate and think Kuga is their enemy. In the end, they attacked Kuga's school and hostage all his students. Because of that, Kuga was reincarnated with all the memories of his powers into another world in the future, where humans and demon races are enemies. He was born as the third child, Seika, into a family of the famous magician Lamperouge. When Seika's father, Blaze, tested Seika's magical elemental power, the testing ritual didn't react. Because of that, Seika was belittled and ridiculed by one of his older brothers, Gray. An event like this is commonly referred to as being born without mana or magical energy. Seika's mother was an imperial concubine, and Seika often ridiculed as an unworthy outcast in this family. Even though Seika didn't have mana, he knew that there was extraordinary inner energy inside his body. The next day, Seika tries to use his powers and manages to create a crow and rat familiar. But suddenly, Gray came there, behaving rudely as usual. He saw Seika, who was doing something earlier. Seika didn't want to respond to Gray's words and immediately attacked him with many crow. Before long, Ruft, the oldest brother, helped Gray from the crows. He was also worried about Seika, then he would treat Gray, who was injured from the previous attack by the crows.
式紙を放てた。これで情報収集はやりやすくなるだろう。
Afterward, Seika did his usual activities. No one interacted with Seika because he was the son of an imperial concubine. But Seika didn't think about that and always made talisman papers to fight monsters or demons until midnight. The next day, Seika searched every room for his robe. But it turned out that Gray deliberately hid Seika's robe again. One of the family maids, Effa, finds Seika's robe in the yard. Only Effa wants close with Seika every time. Before long, Gray came up to Seika and bragged that he would get into the Imperial Magic Academy Ridnair. Gray has great magic, and Seika will never be able to enter there ever. Then Blaze came there to tell Gray to practice magic as usual. Hearing that, Seika also wanted to see what kind of magic training they were doing. Ruft and Gray cast their magic smoothly and flawlessly when they were at the magic training ground. But Gray belittled and challenged Seika to demonstrate his strength as well. Then Seika agreed with Gray's words because he couldn't pretend anymore. This world was cruel to the weak, so Seika would show some of his strength to them. They were shocked after seeing Seika's magic power. Blaze had said that such blue flames were produced by someone casting magic without mana. But these colors depend on how strong the person without mana is. Then Seika begs his father to learn magic, but Blaze refuses. In this world, there has never been a magician without mana. Blaze had been preparing a private tutor for Seika for a long time, so he asked Seika to focus on this mana-less magic training. But Seika still wanted to learn the magic of this world and searched for various information wherever he was. Years have passed. Seika is 11 years old, and he plans to summon an evil spirit that he once sealed and used as a tool of war in the previous world. When Seika manages to summon it, he is surprised that the beautiful demon fox Yuki has become younger than her form in the previous world. Yuki guessed it was probably because Seika's inner energy was much different than before. Afterward, Seika wanted to seal Yuki back because his family would be suspicious if they saw Yuki like this. Then Yuki immediately changed herself into a fox because she did not want to return to the place of sealing. Yuki would hide like this so she could always be with Seika. The next day, Effa accidentally spilled water on Gray's clothes. He was very angry, and as an apology from Effa, she had to come to Gray's room tonight. In Gray's mind, he really liked Effa's big boobs. Then Seika came to kick Gray out of there. He knew Gray was growing up. So, of course, Gray is interested in dirty things like that. After Gray left there, Effa thanked Seika for saving her. Seika said Effa didn't need to come to Gray's room. Then Effa showed something to Seika in the yard. There was a monster child who was injured. Then Seika will heal it. He asked Effa to close her eyes so she wouldn't see how Seika was casting magic power. After the monster child was cured, Effa was amazed that Seika could use magic on the same level as his brothers. Then Seika said that Effa is also great because she always sees what other people can't see. Seika often sees Effa's activities through his familiar. Effa has an extraordinary ability because she can see clearly what kind of spirit she sees. Effa was surprised because Seika could find out about her strength. Then Effa said she could see all the spirits in the yard. She can also command and control the spirits here. Effa finds Seika's coat thanks to the help of the spirits. But Effa doesn't know why they seem to be away from Seika's presence. Even the spirits didn't want to go near any of Seika's belongings that Effa found in the yard. In Seika's mind, he was pleased because he had finally found someone with an extraordinary ability like this. In the previous world, Seika had researched this, but he still couldn't control the spirits instantly like Effa did. Then Seika invited Effa to practice magic, and Effa was very happy to accept the offer.
お消えになってください。もう消えて。
これから定期的に特訓しようよ。
1 year has passed, and suddenly the maids report to Ruff that a monster has appeared in the town. Several magicians had already fought it off with fire magic, but the monster was running towards the forest and was heading towards this house. Unfortunately, Blaze wasn't home because he had important affairs elsewhere, so Ruff told the maids to take cover. Before long, the monster came, and Seika immediately ran toward Effa because he was worried about her. But when Seika arrived at the yard, it turns out that Effa managed to use her power, and Seika is pleased to see her. So now it's Seika's turn to fight the monster.
一撃で倒したのか。
性格。
次の生こそ狡猾に生きる。
It turns out that Blaze saw Seika's previous battle. Due to that, their dinner became extravagant to celebrate Seika's success. This is something Seika has never gotten while in this family. In fact, they often eat plain bread before. Blaze congratulated Seika for killing the monster named Elder Newt. Even well-trained adventurers found it difficult to kill with one strike. Ruff was also proud of Seika because it was the first time he saw Seika do something like this, but Gray still hated Seika. Blaze is also amazed by the decision Seika made to fight Elder Newt. The monster was very weak with fire magic, and Seika could understand that. Then Seika deliberately reasoned that he had read this information from books and had also seen Blaze defeat Elder Newt. Then Blaze will fulfill whatever request Seika wants as a reward. Seika says that he wants to enter the Ridnair Academy. He wanted to contribute to this empire as the son of the famous noble Lamperouge. Seika also reasoned that he had learned to use magic on his own terms. Because of that, he had to learn more about magic.
いいだろう。
Blaze allows Seika to enter Ridnair's academy, but despite Seika's status in a noble family, he hasn't been able to obtain an exam license easily. Seika has to pass on his own when the academy's entrance exam begins. Then Seika thanks Blaze and asks his father for one more thing. Seika also wants permission to bring Effa into the Ridnair Academy.
イーファは精霊を扱える。
In Seika's mind, he could make a valuable friend if Effa came with him to the academy. Blaze allows Seika to take Effa, but he hesitates because Effa has no magic abilities. Because of that, Seika will show Effa's abilities in front of his father. Seika told Effa to shoot fire using her spirit while chanting an intermediate level magic spell.
フレイムノート。
バカな。
聖華君と一緒に行けるなら。
Blaze allows Seika to bring Effa into the academy, but Gray refuses his father's decision. Each noble family can only choose one person to enter the academy. Meanwhile, Gray, who has high-level magic, has filled the quota. After all, Gray also couldn't see Effa ruining the noble Lamperouge's name at the academy later. She was just a slave and unfit to learn magic. Gray feels better suited to studying at the academy than Seika, the abandoned child. Upon hearing that, Blaze said that Gray has physical strength and a talent for a sword, so Blaze orders him to join the Imperial military. Blaze had watched his children grow for years, and Gray was a child who had not developed his magic at all. Gray prefers to learn the sword and play with the city's useless people. Upon hearing this, Gray challenges Seika to a magic duel to win over the academy entrance quota. If Seika loses, he will also have to leave this noble family. Blaze's wife warns Gray not to fight with his brother, but Gray doesn't care what his mother says. He couldn't forgive Seika for taking away his right to enter the academy. Then Seika accepts the challenge from Gray. Blaze says their duel will be held the next day according to the Empire's rules. Fight seriously, no more than intermediate magic, and Blaze will be the referee for tomorrow's duel. At midnight, as usual, Seika was still making as many talisman papers. Yuki said that the incident in the dining room just now was very chaotic. Yuki wonders if Seika will fight seriously until Gray is killed, but Seika says that he won't seriously fight Gray.
それはない。はーい。 今行きます。
Suddenly, Ruff comes to Seika's room to wish his happy birthday and gives him a glass pen. Ruff apologizes to Seika for keeping his distance from Seika and Gray. Ruff didn't know what to do when facing them. Ruff has been paying attention to Seika's activities for a long time, from learning magic, writing, practicing magic, etc. The glass pen can be used daily because it is of very good quality, and Seika doesn't need to use his old quill anymore. Ruff is happy because, finally, Seika can show his strength to Blaze and the rest of the family. He also asks Seika not to be too serious against Gray, so that he will be even more upset because he feels belittled. Ruff wants Gray to realize himself and accept what he's done all along. Then Seika thanked Ruff and encouraged him to always strive to be a great leader and ruler of the region.
それは自信ないな。
Then Seika returned to chatting with Yuki about Ruff. But suddenly, Gray attacks Seika through the window and invites him to have a duel tonight. Then Seika accepts an offer from Gray, and they compete at the Lamperouge family's magic training ground. Gray is very upset that Seika plans to enter the Magic Academy without him knowing. Seika says he has been planning to enter the Magic Academy for a long time. Upon hearing this, Gray got even angrier and said that Seika didn't need to brag about his strength because he was just an abandoned child. Gray thinks that Seika's strength is just his luck. Even he also could beat Elder Newt's monsters due to luck. Gray against Seika not using the rules Blaze said tonight. Whoever gave up or couldn't fight anymore was the one who lost. After that, the person who loses must tell Blaze that he is surrendering from the duel.
Hikari 属性の魔法だと。
もう少し威力出したら。
なんだお前。
降参ってことでいいかな。安心してよね。
Gray gives up and faints after receiving an attack from Seika. Then Yuki says that Seika's true power has been seen by Gray, so it's better if Seika just kills him. But Seika had no intention of doing that. After all, he also had made a promise with Ruff before. Then Seika remembered Gray's words about Seika's luck in defeating the monster Elder Newt. Seika laughed because it was such a funny thing to him. 6 months ago, Seika unsealed his pet demon named Nuudo, then told him to run around the mountain behind the city to chase Seika's talisman paper. Seika wants to disrupt the life of the monsters in the mountain, and he has also cast barrier magic so that Nuudo cannot be seen by humans. Nuudo is confused by Seika's order, but Seika replies that the monster is like some giant reptile. Even though Nuudo is still confused, he still carries orders from Seika because Nuudo is happy to see him again. It turns out that Seika is targeting the monster Elder Newt's habitat, which is located in the mountain behind the city. At first, he wanted the monster to only attack the Lamperouge residents, but instead, it attacked the city. Luckily, Seika's plan goes well and doesn't result in casualties. He has long explored the forests, mountains, and whatever is around this city. Because of that, he knew where Elder Newt was. Yuki didn't expect Seika to carry out such plan months apart. Even though in this world, humans are always naive and only have weak strength, Seika should be able to do anything with his powers, be a good person or a bad person. Then Seika said he did this because he wanted to play as a weak human. In the previous world, Seika was killed by a weak and cunning human plot. Because of that, Seika will do the same in this world by living a life full of cunning.
今度こそ狡猾に生きる。もう失敗しない。
Months have passed, and spring has finally arrived. Seika will be going to Reincarnated Academy to take the entrance examination. Ruff said that Seika and Effa had to protect each other. Blaze also left a message to Ruff. Seika must seriously study magic at the academy. Effa looks very sleepy because, lately, she has had to study in preparation for the entrance exam. If she didn't study, she wouldn't be able to enter the academy. The journey from the Lamperouge residence to the Reincarnated Academy would take a week in this horse carriage. So while on the trip, Effa and Seika have to do something together.
もちろん勉強だよ。
On the way to Reincarnated Academy, Seika gave her a necklace filled with magic stones. This necklace can make more spirits approach Effa. Effa thanked Seika, and she was pleased to receive the necklace. Effa promises to keep this necklace forever. Seika deliberately guides Effa to control more spirits to increase her strength. If Effa becomes strong, Seika will greatly benefit from having a friend like her. After days of traveling to the academy, it turns out that Seika has a habit of motion sickness on horse carriage like this. Effa was worried about Seika Seika's condition, so she immediately turned Seika's attention to look at the window. They would soon arrive at the academy town of Ridnair.
魔法を極めんとする者たちが集う城塞。
もうすぐだよ。
On the other hand, Blaze is worried about something. Soon Effa and Seika will arrive at the academy, and Seika has been working hard all this time to train in magic. Flashback to when Seika was a baby. It turned out that he was not the biological child of the Lamperouche family. Seika's real father was named Gilbert. He was Blaze's younger brother, and Gilbert entrusted Seika to Blaze at that time. Gilbert was a man who had freedom, and it was already like he didn't have a peerage. He became an adventurer after graduating from the academy because he wanted to see what the real world was like. But sadly, Gilbert disappeared suddenly into the demon's territory. After a long disappearance, Gilbert suddenly had a child born with black eyes and hair, characteristics of children like that are rare in this country. Blaze discovers that Seika has started using magic since he was 1 year old. Blaze suspects that Gilbert married into a demon race, but when Seika is tested for his magical elements, he is left with no mana. Seika's blue fire magic at that time didn't seem like magic in this world. Even when Seika could defeat Elder Newt with fire magic, the ensuing effect on the monster was like being poisoned by something from Seika's magic. This is a strange occurrence. Blaze deliberately forced Grey to join the Imperial military because Seika was too dangerous. If Seika enters the Imperial military, he could become a threat to this country due to his mysterious behavior. Even though he could become a hero for protecting the country, he could also become a demon lord who would destroy humanity. Ridnair Academy is a suitable place for Seika now.
学園はいいところだと言っていた。今もそうであらんことを祈る。
Finally, Effa and Seika arrived at the academy town of Ridnair and immediately rested at the inn. Initially, Effa wanted to share a room with Seika, but Seika said Effa's room was next to his. Effa was sad after hearing that, and she immediately asked Seika's permission to go to his room tonight while blushing. Then Seika thought Effa wanted to prepare food for him, so Seika said he had no appetite due to the previous trip. He wanted Effa to eat alone and rest tonight. Effa is getting annoyed because Seika doesn't understand her feelings all this time.
何か食べられそうなものを買ってくるね。
お願い。
After Effa goes to buy food, Yuki says that Seika is insensitive to girls' feelings. Effa is also too innocent because she doesn't pressure Seika to fulfill her wish. Yuki says that Effa has actually loved Seika since a long time ago. Seika only realized what Effa meant after hearing Yuki's explanation. Then Seika also doesn't understand why Effa is so looked down on herself, even though Seika doesn't want Effa to think about the status of a slave, servant, or whatever. He was also surprised because Yuki, as an evil spirit, could understand human feelings. Yuki said she was a woman and definitely understood Effa's feelings. Yuki also tells Seika to learn how to understand a woman's feelings and love her. She didn't want Seika to only learn about magic or the theories of this world. Of course, Seika is too lazy to learn about love because it is troublesome. It's hard to understand women's feelings.
そんな勉強勘弁してくれ。
Finally, the entrance exam was about to start. Effa and Seika were so amazed that Ridnair's academy was as big as a palace. Then Seika felt a strange magic power around him, but he made sense of it since this was the territory of the Magic Academy. Not long after, there was a magic element test before the entrance exam for a girl named Karen. Effa and Seika immediately introduced themselves to Karen. Effa didn't know her position because she wasn't from the common people or nobility, so she calls herself Seika's slave. All prospective students are surprised that Seika is from the noble Lamperouche family, and they want to befriend him as soon as possible. But they found it strange that a slave wanted to become a student of the Magic Academy. Then Karen categorized Effa as a commoner and told her to put her hand on the elemental crystal ball. If one matched all elements of magic, the crystal would glow white. But Karen had never seen anyone compatible with all elements of magic. Elemental magic is fire, water, wind, and earth. In addition to these 4 elements, there are also elements of light and darkness. This 6 elements system was almost the same as Seika's magic that he cultivated in the previous world. After Effa placed her hand on the crystal ball, it was found that she was compatible with the elements of fire and wind. When it was Seika's turn to try to measure his magic elements, the crystal ball didn't work. Karen was confused by this situation and told Seika to do it one more time. She also guessed that Seika was compatible with light and dark magic since this crystal ball could only measure 4 elements. But Seika said honestly that he had no mana. He asked, was it if one didn't have mana, wasn't allowed to take the academy's entrance exam? Then Karen said that it had no effect on the academy exams. All the prospective students who previously wanted to befriend Seika suddenly underestimated his strength. They also thought the Lamperouge family was taking advantage of their position to enter this academy, and deliberately brought slaves here. Not long after, a girl from the commoner, Amu, wanted to test the magic elements. She had been waiting in line, and all the prospective students were blocking her way.
これは4属性？もういいでしょ。
It turns out Amu is compatible with all elements of magic, and all the prospective students are amazed by her. She was only from the commoner but could have such power. Then Seika deliberately thanked Amu for seeing her face in person. Amu replies that she didn't do anything and has no intention of becoming friends with Seika. After all, a mana-less person like Seika would become a burden in this magic academy. Amu is sure that Seika will pass the entrance exam later because of the Lamperouge family connections. She really hates noble families. Amu doesn't want Seika to become her hindrance when he later passes the academy entrance exam. In Seika's mind, he was sure that Amu's face was similar to someone he knew in the previous world. Because of that, Seika becomes interested in Amu.
実に興味深い。
勇者を潰すのだ。ガレオスよ。
Rodnair Academy's written exam begins, and after the exam is over, Effa becomes less confident because she feels that there are many wrong answers. Seika encourages Effa because she can get more marks later in the practical exam. Then Seika sees Amu walking in the distance, and she's carrying a sword. Seeing that, Seika just found out that Amu is a sword user. He was curious about what kind of power Amu had and how strong her magic was. Then the magic practice exam started. The examiner said that there were stone targets for each element in the field, so prospective students can choose according to their abilities. This practical exam was graded based on points, so the examiner allowed the prospective students to try their magic multiple times. Afterward, the prospective students cast their own magic by casting long incantations. Seika said that the prospective students preferred using only one element, and their power output was also very weak. Then it was Effa's turn to do this magic practice exam, and when she cast her magic, everyone was shocked after knowing Effa's true power. She also didn't chant magic spells like the other prospective students. Even the examiner was surprised because the stone target was damaged by Effa's magic. Then Effa apologized to the examiner for bothering him about the stone's target damage. Effa will also continue her magic test on the wind element, which confuses Seika.
ウィンドランス。
Again, the prospective students were surprised because the magic used by Effa was of an intermediate level. They also don't understand why a slave can have such extraordinary power. Even stone targets are damaged by Effa's magic. The examiner calmed them down because the target stone for this practice exam still had a replacement. In Seika's mind, he was also surprised because it was the first time he saw Effa using elemental wind magic. Then Seika said his admiration for Effa with a very close face. Seika complimented Effa that she could use such powerful wind magic. Even Seika was crying because of his disciple's great development. It was not in vain that he accompanied Effa to practice magic that time. Effa said she was secretly practicing wind magic and deliberately wanted to surprise Seika.
セイカ君泣いてる？
泣いてない。泣いてないよ。
Next was Seika's turn. Of course, the prospective students looked down on him because he didn't have any mana in his body. But when Seika tries his magic,
ボール。
青い炎。
ストーンなんとか。アイシクルなんとか。
はい。消えない。
everyone was surprised to see Seika's true power. Even they don't know what method Seika uses to cast magic. While Effa smiled and was happy to see their surprised reactions. After Seika finished his practical exam, Effa was curious why didn't Seika try other elements. Then Seika answered that he only fit into 3 elements. In Seika's mind, the wind element wasn't part of Seika's power, and he also didn't understand the light and darkness elements.
みんなセイ タくんの魔法にびっくりしてたから、ちょっと気分良かった。
After the practical exams, the examiner and Karen discussed this year's prospective students' extraordinary strengths. Karen was also surprised by the power possessed by Effa and Seika. Karen didn't expect Seika turns out could cast this much magic power. Likewise, Effa, a slave, could use intermediate magic. Even this year, some prospective students are talented and can use all elements of magic. Karen says that Amu is most likely a hero in the future. In the fairy tales, a hero was born among humans when the demon lord was resurrected. The next day, Effa and Seika saw the announcement board together at the academy. Effa was very nervous because she was afraid of failing the entrance exam.
もし落ちてても見捨てないで。
わかったから。
When Seika looked up his name on the announcement board, he was ranked in the top 3 of the academy's entrance exam. But when he saw who was ranked second,
私が2位？
it turns out that Effa is above Seika and excelled in yesterday's practice exam. Seika was slightly surprised, but at least Effa made it into Ridnair's academy. While in the first place is Amu, the user of all elements of magic. Seika is increasingly interested in Amu, and he has to target her as soon as possible. The welcoming ceremony for new students was finally held. Effa was not confident in her uniform because her skirt was too short. But I think you look so beautiful and my heart flutters even though you're 12 years old. Effa was very sad because she couldn't get into the boys' dorm, even though she is Seika's maid and wants to be with him. Suddenly, Effa and Seika noticed a dark elemental spirit around the academy forest. When they checked it, they found a magic circle made by a magician. They sensed that there was an evil force that was around this magic circle, but Seika said that this magic circle probably belonged to the academy, so they didn't need to interfere with the process. In Seika's mind, he was familiar with the dark magic aura here, so he secretly used his talisman papers to keep an eye on this area.
お料理もたくさん。聖子くん、もう食べてるの？
The academy orders Amu to give a welcoming speech to the new students. Amu says she doesn't care about the purpose of the students getting into Ridnair Academy. Most importantly, nothing bothered her and she wanted to get stronger. Not long after, the previous magic circle activated, and suddenly 3 lesser demons attacked the hall there. Because of that, the students immediately took cover and the other senior students attacked the 3 lesser demons. In Seika's mind, he realized that these demons were looking for something here. He also said that the senior students were too slow to cast magic spells with weak strength.
ルビンドランセ。
Amu immediately fights the 3 lesser demons alone. While Seika watches over the previous magic circle, there is one magician who turns out to be the beast of the demon race, Gal Galios. Then Seika told Effa to use her magic to escape from here if she was in danger. Seika was on another affair and suddenly disappeared from Effa's presence. It turned out that Seika teleported using his talisman paper to go to the previous magic circle. Seika sings a song his master taught him back then, and Galios doesn't expect Seika can find this place. Galios looked down on Seika because he was too stupid to face Galios alone. Seika says that he just wants to play around with Galios for a bit.
合法予想落下の術。
少しはやるようだな。我が相手をしてやろう。
Seika manages to seal 1 lesser demon, and Galios is amazed by Seika's abilities. Galios is a demon of steel who masters fire, earth, and dark magic. Because of that, Galios will accompany Seika tonight.
こなぞ手足のごとく操れて当然だ。死ね。
こいつ不可視の人型が見えるのか。陽の層落下の。
無駄だ。おごったな。
Even though his hand is cut off, Seika manages to avoid the deadly attack from Galios. Seika was curious about what Galios was looking for in the hall through the eyes of the lesser demons. Galios said that he was looking for a hero there. Seika was surprised because heroes and demon lords were only considered fairy tales in this world. Galios laughs because Seika doesn't know anything about heroes. The hero's battle with the demon race was a true occurrence. Galios confirmed tonight that he had found a red-haired hero with extraordinary powers. Seika is surprised that Amu is a hero, then Galios attacks him again with many swords. After Galios killed Seika, he plans to kill Amu now. But suddenly, Galios was surprised after hearing Seika singing again. He didn't understand Seika's abilities because he was clearly killed by Galios. Seika says he considers himself not human, just like the song he was singing earlier. The song comes from the master that Seika had killed. Seika is still alive from Galios' attack because he revived using his magic. Even when Galios attacks Seika again with the sword disappears suddenly. Seika had already performed a ritual to eliminate foreign objects entering his body. Galios gets very annoyed and is about to kill both Seika and Amu before she becomes the strongest. Seika laughed after hearing the word the strongest from Galios. Seika says that true power does not come from magic but from cunning that can generate and control that power. If only one person was the strongest, he or she would not be able to become the ruler of a world filled with the cruelty of human nature. Galios doesn't believe Seika's words because true strength is the power that nothing can beat. Galios considered that Seika didn't understand true power. Then Seika replied that he was once the strongest in the world.
なんだこの魔力量は。
転移魔法で抜け出すよね。捕まえた。
Galios is already badly injured from the attack from Seika, but he can still fight and will bring out his true strength. Galios is sure that Seika's talisman paper is low. Then Seika showed all the talisman paper he had made over the years every night. Now Seika's playtime is up, and he will order his strongest evil spirit to eat Galios.
ドラゴンじゃない。竜と呼んでほしいな。
魔王様でもこのようなドラゴンを。
Finally, Galios was defeated by Seika. Now he has to reseal Mizuchi, but suddenly he escapes and Seika immediately recaptures him. Seika didn't expect Mizuchi wanted to contradict his order, but fortunately, Seika manages to reseal it thanks to an extreme inner power compared to Seika's previous life. Not long after, Yuki approaches Seika because she's been hiding since the fight with Galios earlier. Yuki couldn't help Seika much in battle, so she didn't want to bother him. Yuki was also amazed by Seika's melodious voice when he sang earlier.
素敵です。
やめてくれ。
After that, Seika returned to the hall, and Effa approached him. Effa was curious, where did you go before? Seika apologized to Effa, and he didn't answer Effa's question. Then Effa said that 3 lesser demons had been defeated by Amu alone. In Seika's mind, no matter how strong a person is, they will eventually be defeated by the cruel humans in the world. Because of that, he needed Amu to replace him as the strongest person. Working as a subordinate of the hero would have a different outcome than Seika's previous life. Seika will try to be a friend that Amu can trust. He will help Amu to keep making her the strongest even though Seika has to fight the demon lord.
今度こそ僕は幸せになれるんだ。
1 month has passed since the Galios attack incident during the welcoming ceremony for new students. Seika and Effa go to the academy together as usual. In Seika's mind, his next plan was simple and devious, to befriend a strong person like Amu and enjoy the fruits of her labor. That way, Seika's life wouldn't have the sad ending it had in his previous world. Seika tried to greet Amu as usual, but Amu always gave Seika a sinister look. Amu doesn't want to know and chat with him intimately. In Seika's mind, even if he received such words from Amu, he would not give up on getting her. But Seika has one problem in terms of friendship.
ってどうやってなればいいんだろう。
大丈夫？
When Seika and Effa wanted to go to class, suddenly there was a barrel filled with a strange liquid above them. Luckily, Seika was able to teleport using his talisman paper and managed to protect Effa. Before long, the entrance exam examiner or teacher or senior named Cordell apologized to them for accidentally spilling the barrel. The liquid in the barrel is Cordell's research, which contains decoctions of medicinal plants and various other liquid substances. Cordell wanted to take this upstairs using dark elemental magic. But unfortunately, he failed, and there was an accident that he did not intend before. Cordell was not proficient with dark elemental magic because he was more dominant in light elemental magic. After hearing that, Seika thought it made sense since darkness elemental magic could redeem time and space. But he still felt something was off and had already picked up the talisman paper previously stained with Cordell's liquid.
行かなきゃ。次はカレン先生の授業だよ。
うん。
After Karen's lesson, she said the academy would temporarily be on holiday next week. This is because the academy will be holding a cultural tradition ceremony. Karen orders Amu and Effa to complete the assignment next week. They had to take the list of new students to the shrine in the forest of Ridnair and pray there. Then Seika asked Karen if one representative of the shrine refused, what would happen. Karen said the task would be given to Seika as a third-rank student. In Seika's mind, the magic circle at that time was created in the forest of Ridnair, so he directly told Effa to refuse this task. At first, Effa was shocked, and then she complied with Seika's wish. Karen said that Seika's words were too harsh for a noble, but Seika says that a slave cannot carry out this traditional ceremony, so Seika is better suited for the task. After school, Seika apologizes to Effa for forcing her to do it, but Effa doesn't mind that because Seika definitely has a plan later for Amu. Seika says that Amu maybe becomes a target for the demons again. Then Effa is a little jealous because Seika likes a girl like Amu. Has a pretty face, beautiful body, and her hair is great too. Seika says that he has no intention of liking Amu. He wants to be friends with her because she will suffer under her own power one day. After hearing this, Effa was even jealous because Seika was watching Amu too much. Because of that, Effa will become even stronger and still help Seika to be friends with Amu. Effa also forbade Seika to say things like in Karen's class earlier. Effa doesn't want Seika to become the subject of bad talk for other people.
わかったよ。
A week later, after Karen handed Seika the student list papers, Seika and Amu started walking in the forest. Amu has been curious since a week ago. What is Seika's goal in wanting to go with her now? Seika replied that he wanted to chat with Amu and didn't want only her to be the center of attention of the students. After hearing this, Amu did not expect Seika to target Amu. Seika was dissatisfied with Effa, who had a beautiful face, a sexy body, and big boobs. Amu was sure that Seika must have been doing hot activities in bed with her every day. Seika replies that he's not that kind of man, and his relationship with Effa isn't like that.
下ネタ言うんだ。
違う、あんたが。
Amu suddenly felt a headache, and Seika felt something strange again. Then they find a magic circle on a tree trunk, and suddenly the magic activates and transfers them into a dungeon filled with monsters. After they kill some monsters, Amu is surprised because Seika's magic is very strange, and she has never encountered magic like this before. Seika says it's magic he learned from the Lamperouge family that not many people know about. Then they started exploring the dungeon, and Amu said that this dungeon had an exit, so they should look for it. The safety level of a dungeon like this was very low. Anyone inside could teleport to any random place they didn't know. Even high-level adventurers had to be careful, and it was impossible to save adventurers trapped in a dungeon like this. After hearing that, Seika stuck his talisman papers on the dungeon wall to signal his familiars that Seika had scattered in the forest earlier. If the talisman papers inside the dungeon reacted, it meant they were close to the surface and could break through this dungeon immediately. Not only that, Seika also gave Amu a talisman paper protecting her from sudden attacks. Amu was surprised that Seika could use light elemental magic, and their chances of survival increased with this magic.
なんか楽しそうだね。
そんなことないわよ。聖火様、近いです。
僕の塔、クイエスの術。
とどめ。
今なら。
After Amu wakes up from her stupor, she is amazed that Seika can defeat many monsters alone. Even Seika can also use healing magic for Amu. Suddenly Amu has a headache again, and Seika is curious about her condition. Is that a disease you were born with? In Seika's mind, he didn't use healing magic because Amu's wound had already been transferred to his talisman paper. Seika guessed that Amu's headache must be the effect of something. Amu says that she doesn't have this kind of illness. Upon hearing that, Seika immediately protected Amu with his magic field. Seika's guess was correct. Amu's headache had subsided, and they would take shelter there for a while. Seika thinks that Amu's headache comes from a curse she received somewhere. Then Seika asked, "Since when did you have such a headache?" Amu said that she had only felt this since entering this academy. According to Amu, her headache is not from a curse. There is no mark of any curse on her body. Seika says that there might be a mark on Amu's body that she can't see.
いや、 別に見せろなんて言ってないからね。
Amu thought that Seika wanted to check her back directly, so Amu wants Seika to help look for the curse mark. She told Seika to look elsewhere first because Amu wanted to take off all her clothes. After Amu was naked, Seika checked her back, and he didn't find any mark of a curse there. Seika said someone had probably purposely made the mark smaller and placed it on other body parts.
もっと見せろっていうつもり？
違う、抜け道があるってこと。
After Amu put her clothes back on, she complimented Seika because he was so good at knowing the curse when it was around him. Seika says he learned this from Lamperouge, and there are much more severe curses than what Amu feels right now. Then Seika asks for a strand of Amu's hair, so she no longer has a headache. Seika tied Amu's hair to one of his talisman papers. If the paper was destroyed, Seika would make another one for Amu. Amu is curious about the elemental magic Seika uses, but Seika says that he also doesn't understand what element he uses. It's so different from other people's magic. Then Amu asks Seika about Effa in more detail. Amu is curious about this because she sees Effa, who loves Seika, but Seika doesn't respond to Effa's feelings of love. Amu is sure that Seika must have kissed Effa and made love in the room all night. Not only that, Amu knows that Seika often plays with Effa's boobs and buttocks every day. Seika said that he never did that to Effa. After hearing that, Amu felt that Seika was boring because he never did that to Effa. Seika says that Effa is family to him, and Amu's conclusion about Effa loving Seika is a misunderstanding. Effa is Seika's family because she has always accompanied Seika since he was little. Seika has always been treated by his family as an object. In fact, he was considered an abandoned child because he was born to a concubine mother. Only Effa always chatted with Seika and never thought of Seika that way. In Seika's mind, he deliberately showed this emotional side to Amu. Ever since Seika reincarnated into another world, he has never trusted anyone again. After hearing Seika's story, Amu becomes sad because Seika feels such bitter things. Amu's mother was a receptionist at the Adventurers Guild, and Amu's father is still an adventurer today. There was a moment of silence, and Seika felt guilty that he was the instigator of this pathetic conversation. Because of that, Seika asked what Amu liked. Amu replied that she really likes fighting. She can fight anything and anyone because she is a battle junkie. Even Amu's parents often say that Amu's hobbies are very strange. Humans fear death, and Amu may not have that feeling. She continued to fight in every dungeon without stopping with a party of adventurers. One day, a high-level dungeon caused many adventurers to die there, and only Amu was left alive. When a party wanted to save the adventurers there, they only found Amu, and she said that she wanted to fight again. Amu didn't realize that her words made the other adventurers think of Amu as someone with no common sense. Then Amu was determined to enter this academy because she wanted to stay away from her hometown and become even stronger. Amu hopes that when she becomes the strongest, Amu's hobbies will disappear because fighting becomes easy and boring. But Amu lacks the confidence to make her dream come true. When she was fighting the demons in the academy and killing the monsters in this dungeon, Amu felt very happy because she could experience constant fighting. According to Seika, Amu's hobbies are not strange because every child has their own interests. Even though Amu's wish never came true until she died, Amu can still carry out her hobby because Amu's existence in this world is very meaningful. Amu can live in any situation and is always ready when the world is in chaos. After all, Amu also has other hobbies that are even stranger.
間
冒険者の思考が映ったのよ。
Amu said that Seika had to keep a secret about Amu, who was naked before him earlier. She also thanked Seika for helping with her headache. Amu also felt happy because she could tell Seika about herself. Then Seika looked at his talisman paper, already reacting there. But Seika deliberately invites Amu to explore this dungeon even deeper. Seika reasoned that it was his first time having an adventure like this. Whatever monsters they will face, they can definitely be killed as long as Seika and Amu carry out their attacks together.
ファイアボール。海のランプ。
協賛を吐くのかなら。 モカモと食い打ちの術。アミュ、頭に向けてファイアボールを撃つんだ。ここだ、ゴンノさん。アミュ。
They managed to kill the dungeon boss there, and Amu was very happy to be with Seika today. They had never fought together, but their every attack was well aligned. This was the first time Amu killed a high-level dungeon boss like this. Upon hearing that, Seika smiled, and Amu returned to her usual cynical attitude. In Seika's mind, he was enjoying today's battle with Amu. Seika wants to give her a lot of experience so she can become the strongest in the world one day. After that, they explored the dungeon deeper and found a mithril sword sealed in a room. Seika immediately pulled it out and gave the sword to Amu. Seika isn't a sword user, so Amu is more suitable. Suddenly, a ring dropped, and Seika was going to keep it because he felt a magical power. Seika said that being an adventurer was fun too. Amu was surprised that a famous noble like Seika spoke like that. Then Amu hopes that one day she can explore dungeons again with Seika.
また行こうか。
約束ね。
After they were out of the dungeon, they informed the teachers at the academy about this. The teachers also just found out that there was a dungeon in the forest. Even the teachers didn't know the culprit who made the magic circle in the forest at that time. But Seika already knew who was the mastermind behind some strange incident before. He is Cordell, a demon disguised as a human who entered this academy. Seika knew that Galios wouldn't be able to easily infiltrate the academy without the magic circle's help. Cordell was the one who made it, and Galios was able to enter the academy grounds after teleporting through the magic circle. Then the trap that trapped Amu and Seika was also the act of Cordell, who deliberately wanted to kill Amu. Cordell's research was also very suspicious because he targeted Effa and Seika then. The ritual that Cordell was performing right now was a very difficult technique. Cordell was amazed that Seika could know so much about this. But Cordell will kill Seika now that he's disrupting Cordell's plans. After all, Amu would have died once Cordell had completed this ritual. Then Seika said that Amu was no longer affected by the curse. Seika transferred the curse into his talisman paper. Amu had defeated the demons at the academy alone, and the demon's blood or liquid caused Amu to be cursed. It was the same liquid as the one in the barrel Cordell had. Then Seika immediately unseals Cordell's demon, kills it, and curses himself with the liquid while continuing to cast a magic spell. Cordell laughs that Seika tried to kill himself and died ridiculously. He didn't expect Seika to do such a stupid thing, but suddenly, after Cordell was killed, Yuki asked Seika, "How did you discover the mastermind behind this incident?" Seika replies that it was his familiar who told Seika that there was pollen on Cordell's clothes. The flower was from the area in the magic circle at that time. A few days later, Seika took Effa to the academy yard. Then Seika put a ring on Effa's finger, and Effa was surprised that Seika could find such a nice item. Seika said that he obtained the ring from the dungeon back then. Only a girl like Effa is fit to wear that ring. In Seika's mind, he had to increase the strength of his friends as much as possible. Seika wants his wish to come true one day. Effa is very happy because the ring's power can invite many spirits to approach Effa. She will keep the ring and necklace that Seika gave her forever. Before long, Amu came there, and when Seika greeted her,
気安く話しかけないで。
あれ？
きっと照れてるだけだと思います。
そうなのかな？
昨日は勉強を教えてくれてありがとう。
いつの間に仲良くなってるんだよ。
1 year has passed, and Seika, Effa, and Amu are in their 2nd grade and attending a new student admission ceremony. Reincarnated Academy had been peaceful since the Cordell betrayal incident a year ago. Seika had been monitoring all sides of the academy every day, and there was no sign of any crime anymore. Not long after, the vice principal told Seika and Effa to meet the headmaster tomorrow afternoon. As usual, Seika had a bad feeling about this.
呼び出しなんて穏やかじゃないわね。
縁起でもないこと言うな。
The next day, Seika and Effa entered the headmaster's room, and Seika felt something different from the aura there. The headmaster knew Seika's reaction. She was a dwarf demi-human who belonged to the demon race. Seika is surprised because he and Effa are meeting the headmaster for the first time. Then Seika apologizes because he has behaved impolitely before. The headmaster didn't mind that because Seika's gaze and mannerisms were similar to his uncle's. Of course, Seika was shocked because he had just found out that his father had a sibling. Blaze never said anything about his brother. Then the headmaster told them to participate in the combined martial arts tournament in the center of the royal city. The headmaster also introduces one new student who will participate in the tournament. She is Mabel Crane. Reincarnated Academy has 2 quotas to enter the tournament. The first is Mabel, the second is between Seika and Effa.
なんで ら私に声がかからないのよ。
僕もそう言ったよ。
Amu is annoyed and jealous that only they are chosen by the headmaster. Seika and Effa had suggested Amu to the headmaster, but the headmaster still chose between Seika and Effa. According to the headmaster, they are competent students to participate in this tournament. Grade 3 students are very busy with their own research, so the headmaster hopes the second-year students and Mabel can bring the academy's good name to the tournament. Effa said that the headmaster most likely already knew that Seika had easily killed Elder Newt before. Anyone who wins this tournament will get large prize money and can join as a royal bodyguard. Seika asks Amu, "Do you really want to join this tournament?"
よく考えたらそうでもないわね。
In Seika's mind, he saw Amu's slightly changed. Usually, she is always stubborn and does not want to listen to what other people say. Then Amu said that magic was more difficult to target humans, so she doubted Effa because she had never once fought humans with magic. If someone were to fight a human with magic, he or she would definitely be considered a madman, and the enemy would be seriously injured. In Seika's mind, Amu's words just now hurt his heart because he was one of the crazy people Amu met.
僕なんかアミの言うところの頭のおかしいやつなんだろうな。
結局あんたが出るの？
ちょっと気になることがあったからね。
After lunch, Amu talked about Mabel with Seika and Effa. According to Amu, Mabel must have a good rating or match elsewhere. Because Mabel has strength, surely government officials will greatly take advantage of Mabel. Amu convinces Seika to withdraw from the tournament, and Amu will take his place. Amu doesn't want Seika to get hurt because he has been raised well by a noble family. Suddenly, Mabel appears behind them and says that Amu is a weak person and a spoiled girl. Because of that, the headmaster didn't call Amu yesterday, and she doesn't deserve much talk or protest about this. Then Amu was interested in Mabel's strength, so she borrowed the academy's training sword from 2 students there. Amu challenged Mabel to a sword match because Amu wanted to see Mabel's strength. Seika didn't stop this match because they wouldn't kill each other. In Seika's mind, this was a good opportunity to see what Mabel could do. Then the match starts.
私はそのつもりだったんだけど、魔法はなしじゃない。
アミも気づいてたんだな。
Amu loses because Mabel suddenly uses dark magic. Then Mabel said that Amu was weak and didn't need to speak like a child's words. Mabel also warned Seika that this tournament would be very dangerous. If Seika was afraid, he could resign right away. Then Mabel left from there while underestimating Amu's strength.
これからも甘やかされてればいい。可愛い勇者様。怪我はない？
大丈夫か？
よし、決めたわ。
学園には許可を取ったのか？なんで君らまでいるんだ？
It turns out that Effa and Amu still followed Seika to the center of the royal city. Effa reasons that she is Seika's maid, so she has to go wherever Seika goes. Meanwhile, Amu deliberately joins Seika without permission from the Ridnair Academy and stays overnight in Effa's room later. In Seika's mind, he understood that Amu was coming with him because she was still curious about Mabel. After all, Amu also really hates losing. Then Seika felt like throwing up because he still couldn't stand the carriage ride. Amu just found out that Seika has this kind of weakness. Suddenly, Mabel said harshly that they were too noisy, especially Amu. Of course, Amu was annoyed with Mabel because she was a new student and spoke rudely to seniors. Mabel says that she has power and is not comparable to Amu. After all, Mabel is the same age as them. Amu was surprised because she had just found out that a noble had entered the academy late. Then Effa says she's older than them and has been late to the academy longer than Mabel.
道理で。どこ見て行ってるの？
After arriving at the center of the royal city, Amu was very happy because it was her first time here. Meanwhile, Mabel suddenly leaves, and Seika's condition is very bad due to his being drunk in the horse carriage. Effa suggested that Seika rest at the inn, but Seika refused because he wanted to see the tournament board there. Amu said the distance from the city to the tournament venue was a bit far, so Amu suggested taking another carriage because the academy's carriage could not take them there.
辻馬車でも拾う？
殺す気か。
After arriving at the tournament venue, they saw the participant board. In Seika's mind, this lineup was too arbitrary because he and Mabel were placed in the same group. If Seika and Mabel win against their enemies, they will meet in the semi-finals later. Amu did not recognize the names of the participants in this tournament. Amu knew that famous adventurers wouldn't be able to enter a tournament like this. Then Seika said that he wanted to rest at the inn first. Effa initially wanted to accompany Seika to the inn room, but Seika said it would be better for Effa and Amu to go around town. Then Amu understood what Seika meant. Amu told Effa that every man must have some alone time to do something that satisfies his lust. So, Effa doesn't need to accompany Seika to his room.
そうなの？
おい、変なこと吹き込むな。学園がなぜアミじゃなくて僕を送り込んだのかを調べるとするか。
Finally, the martial arts tournament has started, and many rules have been changed this year. In the past, martial arts tournaments were called tournaments of swordsmanship without magic. But this year, anyone can participate in the martial arts tournament, and is permitted to use magic. Participants are defeated if they cannot fight, leave the arena, or surrender. There is a new rule added by the referees: damage to the amulet necklace. This year the number of participants was dominated by magicians, and everyone was looking forward to the excitement of this tournament. In Seika's mind, this amulet necklace must be for protection so that there are no casualties during the tournament. The necklace prevents participants from getting hurt, and when it reaches the limit, it will break by itself. Seika's first round will be against a former royal swordsman, Denny's Regan. Of course, Denny's underestimated Seika's strength because a magician would definitely not have the chance to fight a swordsman. The magician must cast a long spell, and Denny's will surely beat him first. Then Seika says he will finish this match quickly because he is sick now.
陽の塔。八景の術。
動きでかわしたかと思えば、次の瞬間には吹き飛ばしていました。何が起こったのでしょうか？どの程度勝ち進むおつもりですか？
そのうち決めるかな。
Yuki says that Seika shouldn't stand out too much in this tournament. Seika's defense had been weaker than usual lately. Then Seika headed over to where Effa and Amu were sitting, and had also prepared several familiars to see the tournament situation. The next match is Belen against Kyle. Belen is the #1 magician in his academy and has extraordinary magical abilities. Meanwhile, Kyle is so mysterious that the commentators and referees don't know his identity. Then the match starts.
なんだ。
行きますよ。
嘘でしょ。カイル選手、剣を止める気配がまるでなかったのも気になりますが。
睨みつけた相手を呪う呪術師ジャガン使いがこの世界にもいたのか。視線に呪術を乗せ。
The next day, the second round of matches begins, and Seika will fight the puppet control magician. Amu and Effa cheered Seika on as usual. Then the puppet control magician said the golem in front of Seika was her greatest masterpiece. She was confident that she could defeat Seika with this golem. Then when the match starts, she was terrified to see Seika smiling like that. Then Seika will return to Amu and Effa's place. He was greatly relieved that no one saw the spirit released by Seika. Actually, in this match, it is forbidden to summon a spirit. If the referee discovers Seika's actions, he will be disqualified.
さようでございますか。
When Seika was already at Amu and Effa's place, Amu said that Effa was very worried about Seika. Yesterday's contestant Kyle scared Effa because Seika's life could be at stake. Even Effa wants Seika to withdraw from this match so that Seika will be safe. After hearing Amu's words, Seika assured Effa that he was fine. After all, Seika didn't have any injuries, and Effa shouldn't worry too much about this. However, Effa is still worried about Seika. Then Amu is amazed at Seika because he can beat the enemy quickly. But Amu becomes bored because Seika beats the opponent too fast. Amu asks Seika, if you win this match, do you intend to join the Imperial Army? Seika replied that he would decline the offer. Seika says Amu is too quick to conclude that Seika will win this match, though some opponents have extraordinary strength. Amu said that she didn't see any chance of losing to Seika, so she really believed that Seika would become the winner in this match. Then Effa was still thinking about Seika's safety in this match, and they started chatting alone there. Before long, the cheerful commentator announced that the next match was about to begin.
いつまでもイチャイチャしてないで。イチャイチャ。ちょっとアミュちゃん。
The next match will be Mabel against the strongest Earth Elemental magician. In Seika's mind, Mabel easily won the first round match, but Seika is still curious about the power that Mabel has. Then the match starts.
ぜ我らは木元祖瞬間かかたる山岳の
Amu and Effa were surprised because Mabel's weapon could easily break that many stones. Seika said that Mabel used gravity magic on each of her weapons. The heavier the gravity magic, the stronger the weapon. After hearing Seika's conclusion, Amu marvels at Mabel's strength. She can throw her weapons continuously while using gravity magic in each weapon. Mabel even uses gravity magic without casting spells. In Seika's mind, he was still curious about Mabel's strength because her sword technique was difficult to master. How could she use that sword technique while throwing weapons simultaneously? Mabel is the winner. Commentators were amazed by the abilities of Mabel, the red-haired hero. After hearing that, Seika was confused because the hero in question should be Amu. When Seika asked them about Mabel, Amu and Effa answered that Mabel's name was the second greatest hero in world history. Even the weapons that Mabel brought were similar to what history says.
なるほどね。つながった気がする。
The next day, someone was sending a message via a dove. But suddenly, an owl catches the dove, and Seika comes to meet the person. I'll call him Terry. Seika already knew that Terry was from the demon race and would do his thing in the morning like this. But Terry pretended he didn't understand what Seika meant. He was going to work today. Suddenly, Terry wanted to stab Seika from behind, but Seika still caught Terry. There were many things that Seika wanted to ask Terry today. He had seen that Terry was talking about something with a broker yesterday. Terry was surprised because Seika knew about the activities Terry did yesterday. Seika said he had his familiars set up all over the royal city, so Terry won't be able to escape from Seika's eyes. Then Terry said that he would not say anything to Seika. If Seika wanted to torment him now, it would be pointless. Then Seika immediately summoned an evil spirit that could read the minds of people named Satori.
言葉を喋るだとこいつサモナーだったのか
なんだこのモ
モンスタ
ンスターは。
ーは
Then Seika started asking Terry a lot of questions. Terry's boss is named Borbafis, a baron-level noble who lives in a castle around the forest. Then above Bafis was an archduke-level noble named Eled and Tarada. They are demon races and live in the east near the border of the imperial country, Luwick. The demon race is after a hero named Mabel Crane. Mabel is considered a hero because the predicted year is the same as the year Mabel was born. Has extraordinary powers with the same hair color and gender. The demon race believes that Mabel is a hero because Cordell and Galios were killed at that time. Then Mabel entered the academy after everything was safe. Even according to brokers and rumors, Mabel is a real hero born into this world. After Seika heard all of Terry's thoughts, he told Satori to eat Terry as a reward for Satori's hard work today.
しておくには危険だ
僕の心を読むな。殺すぞ。
After that, Seika called his familiar to retrieve the message that Terry wanted to send earlier. When Seika opened the message, he couldn't read it because it was the language of the demon race. But Seika didn't feel the important information from this message. Seika apologizes to Yuki because the previous incident scared her. Seika said that he already knew the storyline being made here. The Rodner Academy deliberately entered Mabel into this tournament to divert the attention of the demon race. Mabel Crane is a pseudonym to make the demon race believe. Seika doesn't know what Mabel's real name is and what her goal is in carrying out this task. But what is certain is that the Academy wants the demon race to focus on Mabel as a fake hero, because the real hero is Amu, now Seika and Effa's friend. The demon race can be fooled easily because Cordell and Galios have been killed by Seika. If they hadn't been killed off, the storyline about the Mabel Crane would never have been created by the Academy. Seika also has no intention of finding out more about Mabel. If Mabel really wants to protect Amu, that means it's in line with what Seika wants. Then there is one thing that Yuki wonders: why did the Academy order Seika or Effa to participate in this tournament?
それについては、あと少しだな。
Then the second round of matches continued, with Kyle and Reinez being the winners. Kyle still kills other people with his demon eyes, and Reinez has 4 elements of magic to defeat opponents easily. In the third round match, Kyle's opponent withdrew, and Reinez's opponent also did the same. Seika's third round match would be against a Necromancer, and he could beat that Necromancer easily. Mabel's match also went flawlessly. Then Mabel wanted to say something to Seika. She told Seika to withdraw later. The next match is Seika against Mabel. This tournament is very dangerous for Seika and is not a place for fun. Mabel already knew of Seika's strength during the match. He is the strongest person when compared to the people Mabel has fought. Mabel can't lose this match, no matter what happens. She has to win the martial arts tournament. Then Seika refused orders from Mabel because Seika wanted to keep fighting until the end. If Mabel wants to win, fight fair. If Mabel isn't sure she can beat Seika, she just needs to say so now.
けどとにかく棄権して。
After that, Seika immediately went to Amu and Effa's place to watch the next match, Riena's against Kyle. When the match started, Riena's cast a light elemental magic spell to cancel the effects of Kyle's demon eyes. Of course, Amu was surprised that someone other than herself mastered many elements. But when Riena's attacked Kyle,
全く動じない。これは一体どういうことでしょうか。
なんなんだよお前は。ファイアボール。
it turned out that he wasn't hurt because Kyle applied gravity magic to his body. Because of that, Riena's created many golems to fight Kyle. Then Riena's immediately attacked Kyle directly, but unfortunately, Kyle stopped Riena's movement with his dark magic. Amu and Effa just found out that Kyle can actually use magic. In the previous matches, he had never cast any magic other than his demon eyes. When Kyle was about to kill him, the match bell suddenly rang. The referee has determined that this match's winner is Kyle, who enters the final round tomorrow. Riena's survived because he was not killed by Kyle. At night, Seika wants to sleep early because tomorrow is his match against Mabel. Then Yuki changed her human form. She wanted to sleep with Seika in this form. Yuki really misses the activities she used to do with Seika at night. But suddenly, something happened in Seika's room. It turned out that the attack came from Mabel. Seika realized this because he felt Mabel's movements from his familiar. Then Mabel immediately attacked Seika until out of the inn through the window.
木の層吊る縛りの術。
うっせえな。
命を狙われた以上、捨て置くには少々危ない。かく会いに来てくれたんだ。今宵はあの子と過ごそうか。